right, we're back with three-time guest, voice of the 2025 first half Southern League South Division champion Biloxi Shuckers, Javik Blake. Javik, thanks again for coming, and it's been an exciting time. It sounds like down in Biloxi, and we're really happy to talk about it and have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's been an exciting year, a lot of really good players, and it's been great, to see a lot of our former players up at the big league level doing really, really big time things to help out the Brewers. So it's been an exciting time in Biloxi for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to get your take on, and it's not really a take, but talk about how tough it is to be successful in minor league baseball because then you just lose guys. So it was a 42 and 27 first half. It's exciting. You get to know players, but then you kind of send them out of town as soon as they do too well. So it's an interesting dynamic in minor league baseball that fans who don't really follow the minors don't see. But what's that like? And is there someone that you particularly like that didn't stick around very long?
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of a funny line to walk. Like you want these guys to do well, and you want them to leave, and you don't want to ever see them again. It's kind of double A level with how close it is to the big leagues. You're really excited for guys when they perform well, and then they get on up and move on up to Nashville and hopefully eventually Milwaukee. But it was such a fun team in the first half, and you look at that first half record, and it was helped out by a lot of different guys. Some of them that are in AAA, some of them that are hurt. We've been really snake bitten. The Shuckers have been really snake bitten by injuries here in the second half. But it has been a team that has had a lot of really, really big time players coming through. Coleman Crow was one that was really impressive. With the Shuckers throughout the year, he's a guy who really high spin, curveball, really high spin fastball, and some really good metrics on both pitches. Tate Keener's a guy who just went up AAA. He really had been the ace of the team throughout the year on the pitching side. You got guys like Justin Yeager and Will Childers who were terrific out of the bullpen. A guy like Tyler Bryan, who's currently on the injured list. He was another guy who was great out of the bullpen. And then on the hitting side, it's always fun when the lineup sees the two best players in the league by about a country mile in Brock Wilken and Luke Adams. But both of them have been hurt since pretty much the first half ended. So, not only has it been a team where there are so many guys that have been terrific in Biloxi and moved up to Nashville, but there's also been a good fair share of guys who've been really good in Biloxi and unfortunately still on the injured list. So, it's kind of one of those fickle things in the minor leagues, and it's been such a crazy year. I don't think I've ever seen so many guys go on the injured list in one season. But a big testament to the team and the clubhouse and the coaching staff for kind of staying the ship and to be right around 500 in the second half despite all those injuries.
Yeah. You mentioned Brock Wilken and Adams there, and I think both those guys have a pretty interesting approach with like the maybe not the highest batting average, but they get on base a lot and they both slug a lot. But then a more recent guy who has moved up from Scoop's hat there from Appleton is Blake Burke. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about him. I know obviously with where the Brewers drafted him, he might be one of the few draft picks lay Brewers fans may know. But I don't know. I know he's kind of been tearing it up the last couple of weeks. So I know, like you said, maybe it's not the hottest second half so far, but seems like he's been getting it done since his
Yeah,
promotion.
yeah, and there's a lot of good pieces to pick out of this second half. Blake has been really good. And last week was really cool. It was in Knoxville, so it was back in his college town, and he won a national championship there 12 months ago. So that place was going nuts for him all week long, and he performed well beyond anyone's standards throughout that week. But he's come back to Biloxi in his first week with the Shuckers in Biloxi. He's been terrific at the plate. He's hitting the balls hard everywhere. He's got 3 balls at 111. That's as high as exit velo down here at Double A. And I got to do the math. I think he had 2 more in play at 100 plus last night. So I think it's 13 of 29 balls in play have been at 100 plus. So he's consistently barreling up baseballs and just hitting it hard everywhere. And you look at the numbers in high A, 5 homers in 95 games. And here in the Southern League, the pitching is a little bit better. And I think that's actually helped him hit the ball a little bit better because he's already got 3 homers and a bunch of extra base hits on top of that since coming to Biloxi. So it's been really exciting to have him here. And you talk about guys coming up from Appleton. Matthew Wood's another guy who's really excelled in a lot of ways here in the second half on the offensive side. A guy who was in Appleton for seemingly forever. I think it was 3+ years, 4 years. But he's been a terrific addition, a really good catcher, works really great with the staff. It's a great arm behind the plate, and the bat's doing some big time things as well. I think he's sitting around 230, 240 above league average. The same with the OPS, it's about 80 points above league average. And since coming up, he's got 6 homers. So it's been really fun to watch him as well.
Yeah, I know he's one of those guys with a good approach too, if I recall from his time at least in high A, a lot of walks and stuff. So never a bad thing for a backup or a starting catcher to get on base. I don't know what he progressed to in the league, but I know we've talked about him a couple years ago. Like you said, it seemed like he was in high A for a while, but good profile.
Yeah, and especially for a guy who walks more than he strikes out. I think he's hovering around the 1-to-1 ratio right now, but
Yeah.
you don't see that too often from
Yeah.
a catcher. And to have that in the lineup has been really impressive.
I think even though it hasn't been a crazy hot start in Double A, everyone in Milwaukee wants to hear about Cooper Pratt. What can you say about Cooper Pratt? I see now he turns 21 in looks like in 2 days. So he's still young, but he's one of the prospects that I'd say that even casual fans of Milwaukee likes to talk about.
Yeah, the defense is absurd. Between him and Luis Lara, it's insane. Two
Okay.
best defenders, not only in the league, but probably at the Double A level as well. The two of them together on the same field at one time is just ridiculous. Nothing gets by Cooper. Luis just tracks down everything out in center. But it's been really fun to watch both of them this year. And Cooper, the plate, he's a guy who's playing more baseball than he really ever has in his life. Last year, I think he only played about 90 games ish. And this year, he's probably going to play about 115, 120. So he's played pretty much every single day. Same with Luis. So they played a ton of baseball, and obviously the weather in the Southern League is a little bit different. And we were running short for a while just on the roster side. The roster for the Shuckers was running short for a little while. So, he was looking and he was playing short every single day. So nowadays he's mixing in a couple of DH and stuff, and that's really helped him out in a big time way. But yeah, the powers in a big time way. He's hit some really, really far homers over in the past week, but it's been really fun to see him and just the growth from him throughout this year and the approach and the maturity on the mental side of things. You mentioned that he turns 21 in 2 days. I kind of always forget that he's only 20 years old because he just carries himself like he's been around professional baseball for a lot longer. So it's been really fun to see that. And obviously, you look at the numbers, you have to kind of factor into the fact that the Southern League just hates hitters. It's terrible to hit him. So, the OPS is above league average. He's hitting for some power. And especially recently, it's been fun with some of the exit filos and what he's been putting out there.
Yeah, so why is that? Not to change the subject, but what is it about the Southern League that like I know because they say some minor leagues are hitter friendly and some are pitcher friendly. Is there something in particular? I think the baseballs are all now the same, correct? Like from the major leagues down, they used to not be.
They are not. So we use the
They're
minor
not.
league,
Okay.
which don't fly as far. We used to in the Southern League have the balls that were the big league balls. So if you look at the offensive numbers in 21, 22, and
Yep.
23, those were the major league balls, and the offensive numbers looked more normal to the major leagues. Since then, the league back-to-back years is on pace for the lowest OPS since 2005. Um, and that's a combination of the fact that it is humid as all get out, so nothing
Yeah.
flies. The wind always blows in on every ballpark. A lot of the visiting ballparks are pretty big as well. Biloxi's kind of the small ballpark. And in Biloxi, you can't hit one out to right. The wind always blows in, so everyone always hits
Mhm.
it out to left. But it's a combination of that. And then you have a lot of really good pitching orgs in the league as well. So you have the Brewers, the Rays, the Reds churn out good pitchers. Um, you look at, kind of just going around the Shuckers division, the Marlins. The Marlins always have good pitchers. You look at the North Division, the White Sox have a bunch of good pitchers. So you look around the league and the Smokies, the Cubs, they also always have good pitching prospects. So you look around the league and, you combine the fact that it's always really humid outside. The ballparks are massive. Wind always blows in, and the pitchers are really good. That's not exactly a
Yeah.
recipe for a high
Right.
offensive environment. And you also only have 8 teams. So you're facing the same pitchers week in and week
Yep.
out throughout this entire season when you're playing a team in your division, say 30 times in a year.
That's excellent insight. I think that's something that like fans around here don't really hear or wouldn't understand. We see the numbers on the page and stats, but things like that's really interesting.
Yeah, you almost have to kind of reorient your senses when looking at the numbers because the league OPS is 650.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So Cooper's out here with the
Yeah, right.
680. It's 30 points above league average. Luis is above 700.
Yeah.
That's 50 points. You almost add, if you add 100 to just any OPS number, it gets you kind of what you would
Okay.
look.
Very interesting.
We're
Yeah,
doing
right
it
now
on
it's a
normal big league 750 scale than it normally is the big league level. So, Cooper Pratt, the 680, well, you look at that as, hey, it's like 780, just to
yeah.
orient it, because 750 plus is usually good. 650 plus in Southern League's good.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good insight. Thanks.
I was gonna ask about Luis Lara actually, and I was gonna I think if Brewers fans maybe have heard your voice on Twitter or something like that, it might be making a call on one of his plays. So I was gonna ask if there's like a most memorable play he's had this year so far, because I've seen a lot of the leathery flashes, and not to diminish his offensive profile either, like you just touched on, but it's the glove that obviously grabs eyes.
Yeah, he's got a big league glove. He just happens to be playing in Double A, and he's also still 20 years old.
Yeah.
Beyond that, he's on pace for a 30 double, 30 stolen base season, which has not been done by a 20-year-old since Bo Bichette in 2016.
Wow.
So it's some impressive companies joining in the offensive side. The EVs are great. And then you look at the defensive side, and if he doesn't win a Gold Glove this year, we got problems. It's absurd how good the defense is out there in center field for him. He gets to everything, and I don't think there's a play that stands out for him because he makes everything look easy. Like there's like the cool diving plays and stuff. There's no like absurd plays of like he lays out running 150 feet because he just is under the baseball after 150 feet and makes the catch. So I think that's maybe the most impressive part, is that there isn't like a play that stands out for Luis of, oh, that is the big play, because every play he's made this year is just, yep, there's Luis. There he goes again, makes the catch. And if you've heard the Twitter calls and stuff and what it is, it's like, there it is again. It's the Wednesday, Dan's and Y, Luis, third catch. And it's just kind of funny nowadays. And I've talked to our coaching staff and stuff. And my big thing is, does it ever get numb to just see it every day? Because it's absurd what he's doing. And it is a big league glove out there in center field. He just happens to be playing in Double A.
Yeah, those two will fit in just fine if they play good defense up the middle and center field and at shortstop, because that's obviously you know that, but that's the Brewers' MO.
Well, and
And just
Luis is like 5'8", right? So he'll be perfect, right, with Sal
Yeah.
and Durbin,
right.
and we'll just have all the short kings over there.
Well, and he's filled out too. I think that's the big thing, and I think that's something we've seen with the Shuckers this year as he's grown throughout the year. Is the exit velos are consistently like the 90th percentile. I don't know the exact number, but I feel like it's got to be somewhere between 103 and 105. He just smashes baseballs. So that's the big thing. Like as he grows older, grows up, and fills out, he's going to get more power. A bit like the summer of Sal. We might be seeing the summer of Luis here in a couple of years. But that's one of the big things. Like Luis's big thing isn't maybe big development things. It's just filling out, growing up, and becoming an actual adult.
Hmm.
Right now, a 20-year-old kid. But as that body fills out and as he grows older, that power and stuff will come, and a lot of those doubles will be turning into homers. And shoot, you end up with a 10 homer guy who can steal 40 bags in the big leagues and give you platinum glove defense in center field. That's a pretty good trade-off right there.
Hmm.
Yeah, just talking about all these guys and being specific to the defense is what we're talking about here, like fitting the Brewers. But just in general, the Brewers farm system has been ranked that's consistently top five in baseball, and even seen some sources put them number one. So between the Brewers, obviously success recently and very, very recently in these last 13 games, on top of that, to have such a deep farm system, it's so cool to see so many young guys, like you mentioned, guys who are 20 years old. The guys we're going to see tonight are 18 and 19 in Appleton. So, yeah, that's great to hear. And that makes sense that the farm system's in a great spot. Wanted to ask about, I think you mentioned his name briefly, and obviously, like you said, he's been hurt, but Brock Wilken, if there was anything you wanted to add to that. And then someone else who we talked about last time, Tate Keener, who is now promoted. I know you also mentioned him. So, wanted to give you a chance to expand on either of those two guys, even though you mentioned them briefly.
Well, Brock, I think if he didn't get hurt, would have had a nice one-way ticket to Nashville, Tennessee, to bat fourth in that lineup for the second half of the year. Unfortunately, a really tough injury that's robbed him so far of most of the second half of the year. Hopefully, he's back at some point before the year is out. But that month of June for Brock was ridiculous. Like he was good until June. He had a really tough.
Andrew Vaughn type numbers.
Literally,
Yeah.
he had a tough April, but he walked a lot. Got a little better in June, and then July came around. He was hitting 400. I think he had 8 homers, 30 driven in, like an OPS above 1,000. Which again, the league OPS is 650, which is absurd. Was just smashing balls everywhere, and I think that if he didn't get hurt, that next day or two would have been the day he was going to Nashville because there was just nothing left for him to prove. Because the whole thing during the streak was, okay, well, is this a good 2 week stretch for Brock, or is this Brock just destroying everybody? And as the month went on, we were like, oh no, this is just the Brock Wilken we've all been waiting for, the past year and a half. So it was really, really impressive to see him. And, he just fell off the league leaderboards. He led the league in OPS by over 100 points.
Hmm.
And the guy in second was Luke Adams. And the gap between first and third was like 130 points. It's like the league's supposed to be hard to hit in, apparently, unless your name is Brock Wilken and Luke Adams, and then you just own the Southern League. But you talk about Tate Keener, awesome kid, awesome human. He is probably the only pitcher that I know that loves Pearl Jam as their favorite band, like obsessively. It's incredible. Every start was a different Pearl Jam song. We'd go deep into the Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder discography, like the Into the Wild soundtrack, all of the albums. It was awesome.
That's sweet.
And he also is a really good pitcher. The start in Nashville was absurd to start things off. Hitting 97, the changeup was really good. I mean, it's basically Chris Sale Jr. is kind of the comp with how he looks on the mound.
We might have to clip that.
Yeah.
It's a really good changeup, but you look at him throw and just the way his arm action is and how whippy everything is, it does kind of look like Chris Sale Jr. The changeup really gets a lot of depth in the opposite direction, about 15, 16 inches of run away from left-handed batters, or check that, away from right-handed batters. So it's really good stuff. And the big thing is you talked about it going from Double A to Triple A. There's that difference in the ball going from the minor league ball to the big league ball, which feels a little different in Triple A. It's a little flatter. But because of that, and because it's the big league ball, it also flies a little further in the stuff that we're seeing in the big leagues, and all the kind of aerodynamic studies that they've done. So that's a big change of like, okay, it was well in the Southern League, but how does it fit in Durham or Nashville, where the league OPS is 110 points higher than it is in the Southern League? And I think we saw that hitting 97, the spin was still there. Everything was still working for him pitch-wise. The curveball was still in a good spot. So I think that's a big thing to see in that first start for Tate, and especially those swings and misses as well. And it'll be fun to see how he finishes out the year, because I do think right now he's probably the best pitcher we've seen in the Shuckers rotation this year. And that we've seen at the Double A level for the Brewers. So I think it'll be exciting to see how he finishes out this year and does this offseason, because if you throw 97 from the left side with an absurd amount of movement, that bodes well for getting to the big leagues.
Yeah. I think talking about other promoted pitchers, if I'm correct, I think, is it Will Childers? Is it pronounced Childers? I know he had a lot of success, I think, in Double A. And he was there, I might be wrong, but I thought he was there for at least last year as well, right? In
Yeah.
Biloxi, yeah. And then he recently got promoted, and I think he's had a decent run so far in Nashville as well. So I don't know if you want to run through him a little bit, because I think he was the closer for you guys.
He was. So
Yeah.
Will is incredible. He was the fourth different member of his family to play for a Brewers Double A affiliate.
Oh,
His
wow.
dad, his uncle, and his grandfather all played in Huntsville or San Antonio, and then Will played in Biloxi.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
his dad made his big league debut with the Brewers. So it was a really cool story for Will to be in Biloxi. Great kid, really great guy to have around the clubhouse, really great guy to have around the bullpen. And he had a tough one or two appearances, a couple of appearances to start off AAA. But again, that jump from Double A to AAA is a big one. Now, while the talent maybe in terms of ceilings are a little higher in Double A, just with all the top prospects there, and all the big organizations that are in the Southern League, you're facing the top prospects. The quad A guys in AAA, well, they're not your high ceiling guys. You can't miss to that.
Yeah.
They're quad A guys for a reason in AAA. And I think that's a bit of an adjustment to have up in AAA, because the pitches that guys might be missing, and if you miss in Double A, they might not get out of the yard, but in AAA, Bob Seymour's going to hit it 800 feet in Durham. So That's just something that takes a little bit of adjustment. And I think he's adjusted well since then. 98-mile-an-hour fastball, some really good secondaries as well. So he's a guy who's been really fun to watch out of that bullpen. And just a guy who really embodies, what it means to be a relief pitcher on the back end, with all of his offerings. And again, he shoved in Biloxi, which well-deserved promotion up to AAA.
Talking closers or saves, I saw Justin Yeager looked like he had a handful of saves, and I know you mentioned his name for a second, but he's a guy that was, I believe, he was in that Contreras trade. He was like a throw-in, and not only did the Brewers give up, I don't want to call it nothing because it's Esteury Ruiz is he's got talent for sure, but to give away one prospect that hasn't really hit very well in the minors to get 7 years or whatever it was of an all-star catcher, and then also on top of that throw in Yoel Payamps, and then Justin Yeager. He's the last piece that's kind of forgotten about. That's still a piece from that trade. I personally am curious to hear more about him and if that's going to be a guy who we'll see in the major league level and what he profiles as.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because at the end of the year, he's a minor league free agent. So to get around that, the Brewers would need to put him on the 40-man roster at the end of the year, or else he becomes a free agent. So that's a really interesting piece. But you look at his numbers in AAA, and he's been terrific. He was really good here with the Shuckers, and in AAA, he's been even better. I think he's allowed one run so far in AAA. It's been absurd from him. And I think that's a really fun thing and a fun spot to be in for Justin, whether it's the fastball playing at 96 plus, the good secondaries. He's got kind of a cutter slider, morphs into two different pitches. This year, transitioned a little more into a cutter. Last year, it was more slidery to go along with the sweeper. This year, it was kind of cutter, slider, fastball. But it's got some good stuff out of the pen. And that's another thing is, when you're facing the guys in AAA that are more of the quad A types, it really is an opportunity to show your talent of kind of closer to the big leagues guys are in AAA. So I think that's a really cool thing for Yeager to come up to AAA and just dominate in the way that he has. And I think it's definitely turned some heads with how good it has been, because not only is it not allowing runs, but he's getting a lot of strikeouts, and that obviously translates in a big time way in the major leagues.
The last guy on the current Biloxi roster I wanted to touch on was Mike Bovee. I know he had some injury stuff, I think, maybe earlier in the year. And I know his numbers, now that you helped brief us on how we should view the Southern League OPS numbers, they look a little better. But I still see him like with a number of clutch hits and stuff also popping up on the timeline. So it seems like he's still getting the job done when it really matters. But I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about him, and then if maybe you want to talk about how he's profiled defensively down there, because I think that was a question when we drafted him. Like lots of guys, when they first enter professional organizations, they get moved around. There's questions of where they'll actually play and stuff like that. So if you just want to talk a little bit about him for me.
Yeah, it's a tough injury to come back from. Obviously, he's mentioned he's been on podcasts about it with the off-season shoulder surgery that he underwent. And that's a tough thing to come back from, regardless of kind of how much you miss. Especially with him missing as much time as he did last offseason. He didn't even start in Biloxi on opening day. So he's kind of been about a month or two behind everybody here in the league. So as the season's gone on, we've seen him exclusively play first base. Now, for about the first month, he was just a DH. His rehab was basically DHing for the Checkers. Like, he played 2 games in Arizona and then came up to AA. So like, he didn't have a full rehab stint in Arizona. He just was DHing for the Checkers for about 3 weeks before he eventually got out in the field and played first base. But he's still got the ability to play third, a number of different infield positions, but he's just been at first this year. So, I think it's a big thing for Bovee just to be back and healthy, and to see some of the flashes of what he was in 2024. I think that's really, really big, because you're hoping with a full off season, like a complete normal off season for him, that'll be really, really helpful, and a chance to start next year fully healthy, I think is really important for him as well, just mentally, because that's such a tough thing to go through when you're having to rehab all off season, and then you're missing the first month, and then you don't even get out in the field for a month. I think that's some really, really tough stuff mentally, that hopefully, with a clean slate in the offseason this upcoming year, will be a big launching point for him in 2026, because Mike Bovee in 2024, when before he got hurt was absurd. So, hopefully that Mike Bovee finds his way back in 2026.
All right. I have two questions left for you. They're little more fun. But first one, what year were you with the Dock Spiders? Can you remind me? Because we were just talking Caleb Durbin.
2022.
Okay. Because Durbin and Victor Scott and
Chandler
Chandler Simpson were all
Simpson.
there
Yeah.
2021. And
Yeah.
I swear there's a fourth big leaguer on that team that I'm blanking on. But anyways, pretty cool. Didn't know if you were there that season, but was there anyone on that team in 2022 that's made their debut? I know it's kind of quick, but
Nobody's made their debut
okay.
yet. Kemp Alderman was on that team. He is with the Marlins organization. He
Okay.
has absolutely killed the Shuckers this year. It's
Oh, really?
pretty unfortunate. I'm like, Kemp, you got to stop doing this, man. It's too much. But no, Kemp Alderman was on that team. But nobody else has made their big league debut. I think, if I'm correct, he's the only one that's made it to the Double-A level.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I think he's the only one who's made it to the Double-A level out of that team.
Well, and you.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
true. That's true. I don't have to hit 98 though. So that's a little bit easier. But I think he's the only one who's made it to the Double-A level off that team. Let me see quick with it. Yeah, I think he's one of a couple who's made it to that Double-A level, at least in the hitting side. Yeah, a lot of guys have like topped out in high A and stuff, a lot of like
Yeah.
minor free agents and that sort of stuff. But yeah, Kemp's the one and only who's made it from that team up to the Double-A level. So it's been pretty funny to see him playing against the Shuckers this year. Been pretty miserable. He
Yeah.
had a homer game against the Shuckers like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, imagine if you did this in Fond du Lac.
Yeah.
Like, well, where was this? I could have used that 3-homer game in 2022, not against the team that I'm calling games for in 20.
Yeah.
But no, it's been fun to see him and reconnect. And obviously Fond du Lac's such a special place, and such a special place in my career as well. It's been really fun to see what they've done and to kind of follow the team since then.
Good stuff. Yeah. And then I just have one more personally. I give you credit for the first time you're on the podcast. We asked you for an under the radar prospect, and you said Tobias Myers. And last year he threw, I think, 6 shutout in a winner take all game for us. So who's
Well,
your call your
I would.
shot?
I was actually gonna follow your question up with the same question because I think he also shouted out Isaac Collins from his time at
Was that
Biloxi.
last
So
time?
I
Isaac
think he
Collins?
has mentioned both of them. And normally Scoop and I, we're like staring at the top prospects in the org, and we're like, all right, keep talking about. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, everyone performing well is doing well, but we're like, all right, let's move on to the big guys. And two
Yeah.
times now.
Who's gonna start the 2026 NLDS Game 5 for us? That's what I want to
Yeah,
hear.
I guess I got a big thing to upheld. Now, I will say Isaac Collins is absurd.
Yeah, it's been
The thing
crazy.
with Isaac Collins, and I vividly remember sitting in our GM's office in 2023. We were going through who we thought on the roster would make it to the big leagues. Obviously, we had like Churio, Hero, Miz, Black,
Yeah.
all the big guys that were on that team in 22, and you're looking up and down the roster. And my initial thought was Isaac Collins could be a really good utility guy, fourth outfielder, can play everywhere in the big leagues. Not National League.
Yeah.
Rookie of the year.
Tobias
Yeah.
Myers, I was like, yeah, he's got good stuff. Maybe he'll help out bullpen, be a swing guy, not throwing 5 shutout innings in game 3 of the wild card series
Yeah.
against the Mets. So I will say, I was not calling Isaac Collins rookie of the year. I think you have a good fourth outfielder, really good defensively, really like the OBP skills. Not rookie of the year, which is just incredible. Like that kid's had an absurd year. And to not even be an actual like big league Rule 5 draft pick, a minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft, which nobody knows exists, much less pays attention to. But it's been so cool to see
Yeah.
both of them. But who's starting 2026 games for the Spurs? I do think Coleman Crow and Tate Keener both have good shots. I think Tate Keener's got a really good shot. Again, 97 plus from the left side with a dirty changeup and a filthy curveball that sometimes get a little sweepery, which is not the worst thing in the world. Like, God forbid you get more depth on your curveball and it, just rockets to the right side a little bit more. That's okay. But I think those are both guys who really have a shot to do big things at the big league level in 2026. Obviously, I think Luis Lara's got a shot as well. All these prospect lists that have him at like 23, 24. I'm like, have you seen the kid play defense? I know the system's stacked, but have you
Yeah.
seen the kid play defense? And again, once he fills out, once the bat, continues to elevate throughout his career, I think he's got a really, really big shot to do some big things in the big league level. But, on the pitching side, I really do think that, you're looking at a Tate Keener, Coleman Crowe as two guys who can help out the big league club, whether it's in a starting role or in a bullpen role, as soon as next year, especially with that curveball and how much just movement it gets from Crowe. It's absurd. Go look it up. I think it would be the highest spin curveball in Major League Baseball today.
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
not
and
bad at all.
he missed like a
Yeah.
whole year rehabbing right after we acquired him, basically, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He did not come back from Tommy John until this past year. He had
Yeah.
not pitched in a game since mid 2023
Hmm.
or early 2023. I think he made five or six starts with Rocket City and the Angels organization, came over to the Brewers organization. And then since then rehabbed until about May, made four
Yeah.
starts here, 10 starts here, something like that, and then went up to AAA. And he's only made, I think, one start. So he's a guy who I really think will take advantage of a full off season and being healthy and getting after it for the start of 2026 in AAA. And I think a big time opportunity to do something with the big league club next year, because this is also his 40-man rule. It's his rule 5 years, so he's going to be out of the 40-man roster. You can't not have that arm in your 40-man roster.
It's tough right now, though. We have just so many arms and young players on this team, the Brewers
Well, even like
organization.
Tobias Myers, like who we
Yeah.
talked about, I don't think he's really gotten not to the Brewers' fault, but he just really hasn't gotten a fair shake this year, just because we have too many pitchers, it seems like, which is a great problem to have.
Or like when Shane Smith had to go on the Rule 5 too, and
Right.
dude was an all-star.
Hmm.
But all right, I guess one question, Scoop's hat kind of inspired me, but before we let you go, do you have a favorite alternate identity that Biloxi's had in your time down there?
Oh, the beach chickens are by far the
Yeah.
best. It's so good. The hat's great. The jerseys are great. I am a little sad that the Dock Spiders never got to do the Shantymen when I was there, because the
Yeah.
Timberwolves doing that is incredible. But yeah, the beach chickens far and away the best alternate identity we have. Like, we bring it on the road. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
You
It's
ever
great.
you ever
There's
pitch any ideas? You got anything? Anything they should consider for next year?
I haven't gotten any ideas considered yet. That usually goes beyond me. I was the one saying, yeah, let's just do T-shirts this year of former players to give out. That was about the extent of my ideas of jerseys. I was like, yeah, I'd love that if I was 12.
Yeah, I'd love it
We
if I
don't.
was
Yeah,
26.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
We've not gotten the alternate identity ideas yet, but we'll see what happens.
We'll start thinking. Maybe next time you better have one.
Yeah, hey, bring a list. Bring a list. We're
Yeah.
covered.
All right. Well, hey man, thanks again. We always appreciate it, and good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you.
Chuck, yeah.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be a fun time. It's a fun team. So yeah, and especially with Blake Burke, and who knows who comes up after Appleton season ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marco Dinges, absurd.
Yeah, half their lineup seems like they're ready for a call up, but this org's just
Yeah.
stacked. We're backed
Yeah.
up.
That's okay. That's never a bad place to be in. I think
Yeah.
Marco Dinges hitting 10 homers is very okay for Marco
Yep.
Dinges in high A.
Yeah.
And obviously it's been so fun to see everything that Rob Zerjev and Chris Merring have been doing with the Tim Rattlers, to see everything that they've done, especially with Made. I texted Rob a couple weeks ago and I said, do you guys have enough seats? Made and Dinges and Fish.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to build like 3 new bleachers to fit everybody who wants to come to these games. Not a bad
Yeah.
spot if you're a minor league team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, man. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks
Thanks,
again.
y'all.